Welcome to another episode of Lifelong Learner. This is the Out of Class edition with Ben, Janesh, and Matt.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Lifelong Learner. Welcome, Benny. Welcome, Matt. How are we all doing?
Well, it's good to see you.
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Where are you, Matty? No, you're back, Melbourne.
I'm back in Melbourne. I'm in Warrandyte. Yeah.
How long are you back for?
1 month. 1 month.
And then you're away for your birthday?
I am spending my birthday where it's warm consistently.
Fair enough.
Sounds good. Hey, now, boys, I did send you, just prior to this podcast, a little questionnaire, a psych test called the PANIS test. Did you guys get a chance to take that test?
I did. So, mate, tell me about this test before we kind of go through some results.
I recently listened to, I love a good Rich Roll podcast, and Rich, mate, I know you tune in every week to listen to our podcast. So, mate, I hope you're listening in today. And Rich was interviewing Arthur Brooks. I do love Arthur Brooks. He wrote a book, Strength to Strength. This is the second time he's been on Rich's podcast. He's a happiness dude. He studies happiness for a living. And he was talking about that happiness doesn't live, or positivity and negativity isn't on a single line. It doesn't exist on a single line with a spectrum where at one end you've got, positivity, the other end you've got negativity. There are actually two lines. There's a line of how positively and how much a positive experience affects you, and there's another line of negativity and how much negativity affects you. These are two different states. It's not a degree of positivity or a degree of negativity, and they merge together. There's either a positive experience or a negative experience, and how do you respond to that is individual. It's different for all of us. And this PANIS test, the positive effect and negative effect scale test, kind of, in theory, brings out how you were affected through positive or negative experiences. And everyone is very different. And so to just quickly describe it for our listeners, you could have someone that is high on the positive and high on the negative. These are kind of the mad professors. These are the people that, they're upbeat, and all of a sudden they're really, really down. They're kind of swinging one way or the other depending on what's going on in the world, and they're highly affected by both a positive experience or a negative experience. Mm-hmm. You've got the cheerleaders, which is the category that I fit in, which is where they're highly affected from a positive experience, but not affected. They've got a low negative effect scale. So if there's negative experiences, negative things going on, they're not really affected that much. They're pretty calm and pretty placid and, not swayed by a negative experience, but they are swayed by positive stuff, and they're more positive and they're more out there. These are the cheerleaders. You've got the judges. The judges are the ones that are low on positive and low on negative. So really, they're just kind of
impartial,
boring. They're just neutral, right? They're really just whether it's an amazing thing happening or a really bad thing happening, they're kind of, so-so about it. And then you've got the other one. I can't think what Brooks calls this one, but they're just high on the negative and low on the positive. That is, doesn't take much for them to feel a negative experience. And if there's something positive going on, they don't tend to feel it at all. I'm curious. I'm in cheerleader, high positive, low negative.
So question before we share results. Yeah. Do you think different seasons of life, so obviously everyone's got, I would say, a potential nature, but I'll tell you what I think, and then I got a quick question with it. I think would it change for the season you're in? You've got your nature, whichever your results it may be, but the season you're in may bring out different results. What do you think?
Yeah. I think so for sure. And Brooks, I think, talks about 50% is nature and 50% is nurture, and the day-to-day nurturing, right? So, maybe if I woke up this morning and it was an absolute disaster, washing machine had broken down and put water all through the house, and, the dog had shit on the carpet, and, I might score differently on the test to some degree. But like I always think about my golden retriever, whose name was
Forgot his name. Oh, wow.
I always remember the dog that I
his
just
name was
forgot.
my beautiful dog Hudson.
Just made that up.
Mate, the golden retrievers, right? They're golden retrievers. They're just not going to get angry. They can be sooky. I think golden retrievers are probably high on the negative and probably high on the positive, So yeah, I think there's a nature and nurture. I think you're right. And I think there's also not just from the day-to-day experiences, but also, like you said, the seasons in life, I think I'm probably rating a little different at the moment, post 50 to maybe what I was rating when I was in my 30s, but not much. Not much. What do you think, Matty?
I'm more just curious than anything. Because I guess the longer you do something, the more that becomes part of your nature, right? Like when we think of nature and nurture, but we also have the things that you do repetitively become ingrained in your brain, neurologically, behaviors. So yeah, I really wonder if you do something repetitively enough for long enough, eventually that's just going to become part of your personality, regardless of whether it's maybe you started more positive or more negative, depending on your life circumstance. Like if you were you were in a critical role where you were meant to be very judgmental the entire time and constantly neither positive or negative, you were required to be analytical. I wonder whether that would affect you in your free time versus someone who's very carefree. Their role doesn't require any judgment. They can just be a Labrador.
Mate, what's your score, Matty?
Positive effect, 45. Negative effect, 11.
So you're a cheerleader. High on the positive, low on the negative.
Mate, we all might be very similar. I was 44 on the positive and 17 on the negative.
There you go. Cheerleader as well.
3 cheerleaders.
Interesting. Yep. Reflects that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. What do you think? Is it the person? Is it their experience? Is it just how they're made up? What makes us more susceptible to different experiences, right? So we're talking about us three are more susceptible to or higher influenced by positive interactions and things, right? And the negative stuff, we're like, you know what? It's there, but it's like it's not going to – we're trying not to let it affect us much. What determines that?
Well, Brooksy would say it's in our nature. It's genetic. And I've seen a lot of work done on that, and the level of happiness that you can experience is genetic. There's a huge genetic component, and why wouldn't we think that? If my eye color, my hair, the diseases that I'm more susceptible to, just the fact that, it's always amazing when I think how much we look like our parents. Like, it's like right? But isn't it amazing how we can look like our parents? Of all the different faces that are out there in the world, we actually end up looking like our parents, or we look like our brother and sister, or you see these twins and they look the same. It's like, I know that it's like, but really? Like, wow. Like just how strong genes are. I think it's quite amazing how strong nature is, not just in our physical appearance, but why wouldn't it also play out in our mental appearance?
It does seem interesting when you think of, if you think of Darwin's theory of evolution, if you think about natural selection, it makes sense for you to have a variety in a group of animals, to have a variety of different ways of perceiving and coping with things, and different slight different genetic differences as well, so that if something comes along, in this example, maybe optimism is going to lead to a certain outcome where pessimism might lead to a different one. If you had everyone the same, then something comes along, and if everyone reacts the same based on, for example, their persuasion towards positivity, so they see a disaster and they make a decision, it's not that bad, we can start again, we'll just build something over here, and then there's a second wave that takes everyone out, there goes everyone. So it makes sense that you might have some people who are more analytical, pessimistic. Oh no, we just got taken out by a wave, we'll move away from this location because it's not good for life, we need to move to a completely different place in this fictitious story that I've created. It potentially makes sense. Do you think that the effects of this change as we become more modernized, as we have more technology? Do you think that the influence of sort of nature, it's going to change? Do you think that there's this intelligence in everything, that it's kind of triggered towards natural selection, why there is such a variety in mindsets and makeups? What do you guys think?
I don't know. I'm not sure if technology will change it. I think it will amplify, potentially, which way you go. I think our phones and tech is showing things that sometimes we want to see, and we tune into it, right? So if you're probably naturally high on the negative scale, you're going to tune into the kind of the fear mongering media, and you're gonna buy into that. I think it's as opposed to the other side, that comes up and you might not pay much attention of it. I don't know if it will change the makeup. I think it will definitely amplify it for sure. I think it will. Tech will speed up that process, speed up that influence, and make either one stronger and maybe solidify each one. I don't know if it will change it necessarily.
Amplify. What do you think,
Thoughts,
Benny?
Yeah, I think there's aspects of all species that change quite quickly, that are designed to adapt and for that change to be passed down quite quickly. And you see that in some recent research around Holocaust survivors and their children, and even their children's children, are left with a predisposition to I'm not sure the emotion or the feeling, but it's like this post-traumatic stress is passed down in the generations. They might not have even known their auntie or their great-grandfather that was maybe in the Holocaust or in the war, but there's something passed down with the genes around. There's a shift in the genes around that. And so I wonder how quickly some aspects of us change. Some things take a long time. Like look at the change in jaws. If you speak to dentists, that overcrowding that's in jaws and change in some of the structure that's in humans, that's only in the last couple of 100 years. So I think there's aspects of us that change quickly and adapt quickly, and there's probably aspects that take many generations to go through change. Like we're seeing now, there's in the last 100 years, since probably TV, maybe there's a shift to people using visual as a form of communication more than ever. We just know that video, and I look at some of my kids. If they want to learn something, they jump on YouTube. No one picks up. No one reads text anymore, and so I think we've now got this whole generation that if we could take a "How do you like to communicate?" score they'd probably score really high on visual
Mm.
and not so high maybe on kinesthetic. And so, yet maybe 200 years ago, there was a higher reading on kinesthetic communication versus visual communication. So I think we're probably seeing some of those changes come through. Those things are shifting so quickly. And I think there's so much tension. There's so much pull for change now.
Mm.
Like, because it's changing so quick, there is so much pull for change. I don't know.
Well, just going back to when you're talking about kinesthetic and visual learning, do you think that is due to access, right? So, and there's this, some, not all, there's this very strong instant gratification model, so to speak, or need where, hey, I want to learn this, and there's access on your phone, on your computer, on your TV. I can look up YouTube and learn this skill, as opposed to the kinesthetic, either read a text, I either go to the library, or I got to book in a course with someone who's done it, and then I can learn by hands-on. Like that you might have to wait a couple of months. You might wait 6 months for that. Do you think it's the access has sped up the need or the desire for visual video learning as opposed to the kinesthetic hands-on? Or I'm going to call someone and go, hey, look, Ben, you've done this before, and I'm going to come around, and can you teach me? What do you think in terms of that instant gratification and just the access? Like 20 years ago, we didn't have that access. 20 years ago, there wasn't a how-to on nearly everything there is out there on YouTube, right? You have to go do a course.
Yeah. And I wonder too there on that, like, are we actually changing genetically? Like, is there a nature change in humans, or are we just passing down a continued nurture change? And how long do we continue to keep nurturing that shift before there is a nature change as a result? Yeah, I think, with things like AI now, like I was just visualizing then when we built this house, we've got this big bookshelf, and Michelle was determined to buy Encyclopedia Britannica. You know what I'm talking about? Like that guy that would come door to door and try and sell you the encyclopedias. Well, she was determined to buy those Encyclopedias Britannicas. In fact, we had a little station that I designed up when we designed the house. Now, we're talking 14 years ago, in the kitchen where we could put a computer. So we could access the internet in the computer. And
the computer room.
Hardwire the house with LAN cables, like data points, throughout the whole house. And anyway, so we kind of bought this Encyclopedia Britannica, and like almost in the same month, there was this jump in the internet, and like it was just Google just went to another level. Mate, I don't think we've ever opened them.
Mate, there was a CD called Encarta. Encarta. It was like Encarta, so you had it all, the encyclopedia. You just search whatever you wanted to search. That
was the upgrade. When we bought the Britannica, you could get the upgrade and get the CDs of the Britannica. And so, like we've got this computer now in the kitchen if we want to access anything.
How often do you use that computer now?
Well, mate, it's not there. It's gone. It's like we.
Is that right by the ovens?
It was probably It was probably 2 years that it kind of sat there and kind of never got used because phones are then also upgraded. And now you could kind of, you could actually access it on your phone easier and blah, blah, blah. And then for many years we were Googling. Like we needed a result. We wanted to find out something. So we would Google it. Then we would have to go into the results that Google gave us and research the results and find out, out of all the mixture of results, what was the actual answer to the challenge or the question we had. Well, as of, this year, you don't need to Google anymore. You go to ChatGPT, you put in your question, and it gives you that answer. You know, you don't have to go through a whole pile of different web pages like you do with Google to find your answer anymore. It just gives you the answer. It's collated now, all that, and giving you the answer. So,
is it giving you the answer though? Or is it lulling you into a false sense of security so you get used to getting the answer to 100 questions and then at some point, misinformation? I don't know. I'm skeptical.
ChatGPT answer.
See, I'm skeptical about all of this single source information thing. I feel like it's a lost art to be able to gather information, overlay it together, and determine your own answer based on multiple sources. I feel like...
But it is taking multiple sources, though.
Yes, but it has no... I don't know that. I have to take an algorithm's word for it. And I'm sorry, but the skeptical part of my brain says, you can't give that much power to somebody outside of you. There's got to be an element of... But
didn't that exist for Encyclopedia Britannica, though? Because Mr. Britannica...
It's true.
He determined what was in the encyclopedias.
But you had a publisher that...
Unbiased.
That was meant to be unbiased.
Bullshit.
There's
no media that's
Australian
fucking
newspaper.
Unbiased. There's no
It's
unbiased.
right-wing.
There's no
The publisher
fucking...
and editor.
A newspaper is different to a book.
How?
Like a book is,
How?
you know, zero... I don't know. This was...
I'm curious. How is a book different? It's published. How is it different? It's obviously got a motive. It's got a narrative. It wants to push that. How is that different?
In my mind, it's different. I'm not saying it is different. I'm saying in my mind, it was always, to get a book published, there's a lot of rigor. There's a lot of different things they've got to do. They've got to prove their sources. They've got to, that might not be the case.
Nah.
But that was the illusion that I was under. So if it was in a book, it was real.
So,
right?
but I can write a book with ChatGPT by the end of the day today, have it off to the publisher, and have it printed by next week. Now, does that now fill your bucket and go, it must be credible, must be unbiased?
No.
Why?
That
It's in a book.
worries me.
It's in a book.
Here's the bigger challenge, though, Matty. Let's imagine, for example, you were more anti-vax, right? And if you were an anti-vaxxer, how many pro-vaccine books would you go and buy from the bookshop?
One.
Zero. You would buy zero. But if you're browsing through the bookshop and here's some anti-vax and vaccine death books and you're buying all those books because they reinforce your narrative. We do that anyway. We do that anyway. And I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he said where Google is moving now, Google is wanting to learn more and more about your character, your personality, who you are. And so when you search in the future with Google, it will actually give you, for example, if I'm Googling a plumber and it knows I'm high on the positive and low on the negative, it'll give me the search results for a plumber who is like me.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So it's going to give me biased results, even when I go to search for a plumber. It won't give me the other type of plumber. And now that's already happening.
So we say that. So I do read the opposite sometimes. Like, definitely there's a bias. We all have that. But some of us have it completely unaware bias where we don't actively ingest material that we don't like. Like, I go into the cold. I don't like the cold. I go into the cold because I know that it's my reaction to the cold that is actually the issue, not the cold. Like, I like conflict. I don't like conflict. I move towards things that are uncomfortable because I know there's lessons to be learned there. And so that's the same with information. Like, I will read information I don't agree with just to get to the end of it because I know that I need it. I need to gather lots of different information. The problem with this is that you take away people's choice to even do that. You know what I mean? To make informed decisions. Like an informed decision is reading both sides of the spectrum, right? It's reading stuff you don't necessarily agree with, but could be true, and reading stuff that could be true that you do agree with, and laying them over together, and
That's
hopefully
what the AI is doing.
it is it.
When have we had the freedom to do that?
What do you mean?
When have we had the freedom, even in Australia, when have we had the freedom to get completely unbiased, uncensored?
No, we don't. We get bias-censored information, but from two different spectrums. So if you take both and you lay them over together, in the middle, the meeting point of these two biased narratives is probably the truth, right? It's like a Venn diagram. You just lay over left and right, and somewhere in the middle is probably the truth, because both, for example, in media, both left and right are telling partial truths skewed to their personal view that suits their narrative. But when you lay them over together, in the middle is probably the truth. And for me, I then take both lots of information and then I say, well, what resonates with me? What feels accurate here? And generally, it's something that creates freedom, creates a sense of optimism. It's true this is my philosophy. If it takes and it's oppressive and it has a negative sensation, it's often false. So that's the game I play personally. But with AI, you potentially lose the ability to gather information that you don't like. Like, that seems so dangerous to me.
But it's like the same as if you were hiring someone to go source that information for you. You had a staff member, you go, hey, look, get both for me and present them to me in a summary. What's the difference?
I don't think there is, as long as you're getting both lots of information.
Yeah, so then what if AI is getting both lots of information?
But where in the world have we been always offered all the information? In China, you're not. In Russia, you're not. And I don't think in Australia
Allegedly.
are either. We don't get all the information in Australia. We have censorship.
Mate, we had, talking about all the information, we might as well go there. We had a politician resign yesterday, and I bet we don't have all the information presented. You don't have there's one side of it, Matt, and you can't go research the other side to have your Venn diagram in the middle. So what do you do then?
Trust your instincts.
Yeah, but then that's biased.
Smells like it probably is. Yeah, look, I think there's and Australia is a free country, but I still think we get censored information. Where can you go? Like, you remember even back in the days of COVID, if you were on Facebook and you had anything that was against the Facebook narrative, mate, you were wiped out. The fact checker. Remember the fact checking that went on with COVID on your Facebook account and on Google? Like, it was like, what facts are being checked by who? Like,
that makes my skin crawl. The fact checking. It's like, oh, how is this okay?
Yeah. Well, like that's the world we live in. But I think coming back to where we really started with this is where that's now moved to, is that people are no longer, taking a heap of books off the shelf, which is what Google used to give you. And yes, they were a select group of books that Google thought was the most useful for you. So again, potentially biased. And then searching through all those books. Instead, we're asking somebody or something to do that for us, read the books, and then give us just one answer. Right. Wow.
That makes my skin crawl. Here's the thing for books as well. This is why I advocate for books. Books don't change. So you put a book on a shelf, the book is the same on the shelf until it gets reprinted. So the information cannot change in the book. So the author stands by the information. On the internet, it changes the next fucking day. Someone can go on there, literally just, that's gone now. This is the new thing. That really bothers me too, that there's nothing, you can go in the moment, go back and just change a fact or change a description of something. Whereas for them to do that in the past, in the 80s or the 70s, the book had to be taken off the shelves, brought in, and a new edition was put up. And so then new information would be replaced, of course, in the new edition, but that would take time and there'd be an accepted, this is, whereas now,
But what if it's
definitions change every day? Someone can just go on there and change a definition for a vaccine or for or whatever. It seems madness. Go, please, Dinesh.
No, but what if it is taking information from the books? How do you know it's not?
I don't know anything anymore.
But also, if you think about if you're not using it for positive or negative, it's the pace-wise. Pace-wise, it's like you can go do your research and come to a decision where someone's like, you know what? I'm going to do my research within 6 hours. You can take 4 weeks. And I might fact check it, so to speak. However, I'm going to choose to use this to speed up that process. You can't compete with that speed.
For sure, I'm getting left in the dust, man. But the whole purpose of today's thing, I guess, was doing a little survey to work out the level of, optimism versus pessimism, the type of person you are. I prefer be happy and left in the dust than miserable and up to speed with everyone else. And that's where it feels like it's going. It's like you're going to be more efficient. You're going to be probably earning more. You're going to all these proactive, positive, seemingly things, but have no idea whether what you're selling is real or not.
Like whether I get in my feed, my Facebook feed. I've obviously liked something, a motorbike thing or this car website or something, and now I get these images of cars and motorbikes. Just look like, wow, that looks so good. Like, wow, like look at the design of that, and it's all AI produced. They're not real motorbikes and they're not real cars, but they're just so beautifully done, and you've got this real background, and they're on this real road, and we're getting to the point now where it's kind of hard to believe what you see.
Yeah, that's.
You remember like the Yetis and the Loch Ness monster pictures, the black and white, and everyone would look at the picture and go, "Is that been doctored? That old black and white picture? Is that really a Yeti in the bush?" Well, now it's like, wow, is that real or is that not real?
That's so true, right? Like for so long, it was like if you could see it, you believed it. But now that's gone. Like I saw Tom Cruise the other day online running some social media. It's not him. It's deep fake. Some dude that has a similar body shape to him, and they've just perfectly plastered his face onto him. Perfect. Like it looks like Tom Cruise, not Tom Cruise. Like that to me is a worrying place to be where you have no idea what's real and what's not. What do you think, Janesh? You're a tech savvy dude. You love technology. Are you on board with this?
I do. My question is, has this always been happening anyway? Has this always been happening anyway? Seeming those motorbikes, Tom Cruise is real, and now we're like, we got a little bit more intellect. We go, you know what? We can somewhat fact check that, but something else seemingly real, we've taken it as real. Right? And has this always been happening irrelevant to technology? Right? And the people that challenge that are the skeptics, or seen as the tinfoil hat wearers. And has it always been happening around us?
What do you mean though? Because technology is the catalyst that enables this to happen. Like that's where my anxiety is. It's because now you have such advanced technology, it's very easy to confuse people. Whereas in the past, we didn't have the technology. You
had media. You had narratives. You had very either subtle or very intelligent political agendas. through multiple generations, right? Through people believed this was the way. This is real. This is we need to get rid of this race because we want a pure race. And was that person, say certain people that were influenced by that, were they bad people? Maybe not, probably not. But they believed that to be real, right? Their perception was their reality. So my question is, has it always been happening, but now it's more accessible and we can start to tell some of the differences now? I'm curious. I think it's always been happening, and now it's just on the forefront a little bit.
I think one of the things that humans have always sought for or sought out is a trusted authority. But I think, remember the Brian Naylor. He's dead. Is he still alive? On the news, 9 News, Brian Naylor.
Mm-hmm.
The
most trusted.
Yeah,
anchor.
Like you'd tune in at 6 o'clock and he'd tell you that how things really are, like the trusted news. And then we got to recognise that some of us got to recognise that news isn't always quite the truth, and politicians don't always tell the truth, and I think we're moving into now a generation of even oldies like me, where it's like, who do I trust? What do I trust? Where can I put some trust and have some confidence? And I think it's creating a little bit of confusion, and it's creating some uncertainty at the moment for a lot of people. Like, where can I go for a trusted source of information? I think I don't know whether that's, again, Janesh, whether that's always been there or whether it's, again, accelerating with the amount of noise and confusion.
I feel like, look, propaganda's always been there. There's definitely been people trying to use information. Like, I remember being a kid, right, with a big brother. I remember my brother being bigger than me and far stronger. So I remember being the propagandist. I remember making up stories. That was my way to survive in a world where I was outgunned. I would just be a manipulator, and I got really good at it. And I think that, for sure, that's been going on since the dawn of time, right? There's this power struggle between, constantly. And one of the ways to take control when you don't have the physical force is to manipulate. Propaganda. That's been happening. I think now we're just, it's like, it's hard to work out what's propaganda and what's not. And I think you're so right, Ben, that people are confused and they're worried and they're like, well, who do I trust? Because I've trusted authorities in the past that told me things that were 100% true, to later find out that they weren't at all. And now I'm dealing with the consequences. And it reminds me of this movie called Blackwater. And in the movie Blackwater, it's really worth a watch, actually. It's a little depressing, but it's about America and a chemical company called Bouton, I think. It's a big chemical company that had this, they accidentally poisoned people's water in the 80s and 90s. And they were also tied up in Teflon. So taking the paint that they used to paint army tanks with, they took that out of the army and they started painting pans with it and telling people it's non-stick pans. And, it took off in the 90s. And obviously later they found out that it's really bad for people. Teflon can kill you. And there's a line in that movie where the guy says, who do we trust? Because he's trusted the government, and then he gets a lawyer and he's trying to trust the lawyer and he's trying to get answers. And in the end, he says, the only person you can trust is you and your family. And that's what it feels like. It feels like the only people that we can trust nowadays are people who actually care about us on a deep level, myself and my family, and maybe on an extension friends in there, people who actually you spend time with. These are the people that you're going to see on the weekend. These are the people that you're going to co-create a life with. They're the people you can trust. Some weird authority that you have no connection to at all that just gives you edicts, do this, do this. I don't know if I'm going to trust them anymore. Like, that's my thought process. It's like power with the people. Keep trust with Ben, Kavosa, and Janesh. You're my
What about
trusted
if you haven't got
sources.
family? Because families broke trust. What about if you've got no trust in yourself? What about if you said you would and you didn't?
That's
and you've done
a
that so many
scary
times
place.
that now you haven't got trust in yourself either.
Mhm.
And that, I think for many people, that's where they sit,
Yeah.
and that's why they look for a trusted authority, because I can't trust that I'm going to make the right decision myself. So I need someone to help me make the decision for me.
Mm.
And when you haven't got them either, like, where do you sit now?
So
Yeah.
if you are, and again, I think I agree with you, Benny. I think it is a lot of people sitting there, and if you are predisposed or to positive or negative, that has a really interesting influence, right? Like, so bringing back to, like, if you go, look, I don't have any trusted advisors, or look, I actually don't know on this topic, right? Or either in general or in this topic, and go, I'm going to get my opinion or advice how to move forward on this outlet or this source, right? And you're predisposed to go, oh no, like the chicken and the egg. Oh, the world's falling. The world's falling. And then you got the positive chick going, it's new life. Welcome to the world, right? And like,
That's such a
an
good
interesting
But
point, right?
I feel like that puts the responsibility, maybe this is the point, the responsibility back on us, because no one's going to be more invested than us in our own lives. So we need to get to a place where we trust us. We need to get to a place where we spend more time on us than we do on our job. We need to spend time understanding us, working out our flaws, working out our strengths, weaknesses, working out, like Ben did in 35 seconds, whether we're more inclined towards a positive outlook and maybe not acknowledging some potential challenges. We look to the positive. We need some people in our friendship group who are the opposite. Some people who are a little bit more pessimistic, a little bit more realistic. Maybe that's part of it. As we become a more modern society, we need to develop a really solid community, because that's the only place where we're going to have trust.
Fellas, what would be our what would be some of our takeaways that we can leave our listeners with?
I think really importantly, get to know thyself.
Yeah.
So often we know so much about all sorts of other people, celebrities, and all the rest, but we just haven't taken the time to know thyself, and kind of getting to know thyself. And if it is do things like personality profile tests or positive affect, negative affect scales, or just kind of getting to know yourself and reflecting on that. Not necessarily taking even the test results as truth, but using it as an opportunity to kind of pause and just reflect and getting to know thyself. I think that's really important to put the time into. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Many of our listeners will have read that book, Robert Kiyosaki. The Rich Dad's a real guy. His name's Keith Cunningham. And Keith's read a good book called The Road Less Stupid. Pretty simply, to save you reading the book, take an hour at least once a week with a blank piece of paper and a pen and just think. Not on anything in specific, just take an hour of just quiet time and let your thoughts kind of go where they go, and make some notes. And, most of us don't even have an hour once a week where we just sit quietly with nothing, no agenda, and just think about ourselves and think about our lives. My body coach, he said, mate, I just ask 4%. That's all I want. It's 4% of your day. You can just give me 4% of your day, I'll transform your body. 4%. I said, 4%? He goes, yeah, just an hour a day. Just an hour. That's all I want. 1 hour. And it's like, wow. Most people go, oh, there's no way I could put an hour into my health every day. Just an hour. So get to know thyself. That'd be my take home for our listeners.
Matt, how about yourself?
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to touch on that, and know your friends. know your immediate people. Like if you spent the time knowing yourself and work out your biases, work out your weaknesses as well as your strengths, and then what about your partner? You know, your girlfriend or your boyfriend, know them pretty well, because for sure they're as invested in you as you are. They want to see you shine far more than some external, you know, group like a government. They're going to be more invested. So know your immediate people around you, and make sure that they're people that are supporting you towards what you want. You know, it might be uncomfortable. You might have to cut some people off. You might have some people that aren't there to support you and see you shine. So know yourself and know your immediate circle of friends. And on the know yourself, we all have intuition. And I'm really passionate about this. And I think people forget, when you ask a question, if you listen, the answer will come to you, and it comes from within. And if you develop a relationship of trust with yourself, like Ben said, so if you say you're going to do something and you do it, and you work on becoming a trustworthy individual to yourself, then you can start to trust this internal voice. And when you ask a question, it will tell you the answer. Non-biased, it will tell you the truth. I really believe that. It served me in the past, but you do have to be trustworthy before you can trust that internal voice. So yeah, know yourself and know your friends. Jinesh?
Oh, great conversation, actually.
It was very organic, wasn't it?
You're on mute, Benny. You're on mute. I can see your mouth moving, but you're on mute.
It's fantastic, though. Look at him. Just chiseled jaw.
Is he doing that on purpose, that he's on mute, that he's going to keep
Maybe. Talking? Go, Jinesh.
Oh, I was on mute. All you guys I was just I hate that mute button. I was coughing. I put it on mute and I've got to take it back off. Hey, I was just saying, Jinesh always likes to pause for effect before he gives his answer.
He always goes last too.
It's like this. He goes, it's to, you know, and it's like this beautiful, just this poetic kind of pause, and I just want to get my pen out, ready to take notes.
You should, mate. You should. It's
He's mastered the art.
I'm not shooting at the hip. It's like me taking aim before I speak. Right.
I love it.
I would say, first off, great conversation. I think we talked about a range of topics here, and I think piggyback on know thyself is like take stock of your values. Know what do you stand for? What don't you stand for? I'll put the positive negative effect test in the show notes, but I would just be aware of that, and I would say do that regularly. Do that at least once a year, even every 6 months, to either solidify what you think you stand for, and or it evolves, and then you know, okay, this is what I stand for. Okay, great. I'm going to find and seek information. Have clarity on who you are first, because if you're in a world where you don't know who you are, everyone and everything around you is going to tell you who and what you are, except for yourself. So I would say take stock of your values. If you haven't written your values down or refreshed them, I would highly encourage that.
It's good.
Solid.
Good session today, guys.
Yeah. Till next time, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, boys.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Lifelong Learner. If you like this episode and want to know more and hear other episodes, head over to lifelonglearnerpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter, where you'll be the first to know when new podcast episodes come out. And if you want to say hello, tell us a joke, or ask us a question, send us an email at hello@lifelonglearnerpodcast.com. Thanks again.